Hi, this is Robert Clinkybeard and David Anderson with the Commercial Landscapers Podcast. We're going to take 20 minutes of your life to deliver some amazing content from accomplished leaders and business owners and provide you some value that you can take back to your business, your family, and your personal life and transform your life. We hope you really enjoy this. Cheers, everyone. Okay, good morning, everyone. Robert Clinkenbeard here in the Commercial Landscapers Podcast. I have a wonderful guest here today, Lauren Bailey. Lauren, thank you for joining me today.
Oh, I'm so thrilled to be here.
Well, thank you for joining me. So, Lauren, tell me a little bit about your background. Give us your 1 minute elevator pitch on who you are.
All right. So I grew up kind of in restaurants and starting off in college. When my dad stopped paying for my tuition, I had to get a job. And so naturally I made a fake resume and got a job at P.F. Chang's, and they were crazy busy. And that was my first foray into it, and just figured it out along the way, and graduated and went out to Nantucket to go to grad school on my way to grad school. And was shaking a martini one night and thought, you know what, I'm going to give this a go. Like, I love it. It's everything I love. It's, design, food, people, just great high energy. It's unpredictable. And so, and frankly, I think it was a gift of, you don't know what you don't know. So I kind of went for it without really knowing the challenges that would be ahead. And met my business partner who'd been in the restaurant business for a while. And we were really aligned on our core values and the way we wanted to do things. So we partnered up in 2007, and we started building Postino Central, and then later co-founded Upward Projects, which is our parent company. And I was 26 at the time, and just had the willingness to work really hard and figure it out along the way. And, we used that typical entrepreneurial approach, which was like, I'll work harder than anyone else. I'll figure anything out. And I will, not have any money and have a million challenges to get through. And then any money we do make, we'll continue to invest in the business while we're eating ramen noodles and having fun along the way. So fast forward to now, we have, we're doing just about $50 million in sales, and we've grown the business to soon to be 17 restaurants. We're opening one in Denver in 2 weeks. And we did a private equity deal 3 years ago with a really amazing company called Brentwood Associates. And they have been fantastic partners to us, and culture and people are at the forefront of what we do. There's a common misconception that we are a food business. We do a lot with food and wine, but we are a people business first and foremost. And so we spend the majority of our time curating these types of experiences first for our employees, so that they can come into the restaurant and deliver our ultimate mission, which is to make people feel good to our guests. And we try to do that every day. We put everything through that filter, and we have an awesome set of core values that we do also everything through: hire, fire, train, recognize, promote, and engage on those 5 core values. So they're pretty important to us, and really woven through everything we do. And more than anything, I love this business, and I would do it for free. I think that's just probably one of the biggest gifts of my life, is that, if I won the lottery and won $50 million tomorrow, my caveat was I just had to do some kind of work. This would be it. And it's a real blessing to be able to do that, particularly navigating like really hard times like we've just been through. And, I'm waking up in the morning, swinging my bat as hard as I can, and I feel really blessed to have that feeling every day.
Cool. That's awesome. Great story, Lauren. Thank you. I've got a ton of questions from that, but let me start off with, tell the audience about some of your early challenges when you were, at that first 1 or 2 restaurants. What were some of the early challenges you had?
Well, capital is always a problem, right? Like, I think we all face that to some degree. And then also knowing when to push the button on certain things, when to hire that next role, which role is that? And then also, I think looking back, learning the difference between managing and leading, and when to apply both of those theories onto your team and your business. I think that was probably one of the most critical things that I had a really interesting process into, because a lot of times, first I'll talk a little bit about the difference I believe in managing a business is like making sure people show up, that your products get there, that they're making them correctly, and sort of making the donuts, if you will. And that's a real imperative piece to owning and running a business, because if you don't have those things, you know, you really don't have anything. If we don't get the food in and we can't serve people the food, we have a problem, right? So I think a lot of people get overly focused on that though, and they think that's the only thing that they do. And that's not what you do. I think that having an equal balance and influence on leadership is also super important, because if you're not leading your team, they don't understand the why behind what you're doing, and they will also have a hard time making their own decisions. And so we were always big fans of strong sense of autonomy, because in the restaurant space, it's very unpredictable. You can't predict what's going to happen. And if you try to tell your team like, hey, you know, this is every scenario that could possibly happen, and this is what I want you to do in that, well, undoubtedly there's going to be something that you didn't give them direction on. And so what we focused on was teaching them really what the end goal was and why we do things the way we do and how it means to influence people. And so I think a lot of people, when they in most businesses, it's easy to manage and just give people a playbook, and they'll spend an exorbitant amount of time trying to predict and analyze and detail every possible scenario, and less time on leading. So, and that is leading people means hiring the right people, assessing them correctly, learning how to interview, testing skill sets, and honing abilities. Like, I'll give you an example. Having the ability to have a hard conversation is something that I think very few people really are good at. And there's not a lot of training behind that. So if you're leading your team and helping them engage and believe in hard conversations and how to have them, I think that's really positive. And so all these life lessons kind of yield people into this connectivity and this belief that they're part of something bigger than them and that they're being developed. And I think that's become more important than ever, versus just going somewhere, having a job, making a paycheck, and that's that.
Right.
I think it even goes so far into, like, you know, give you an example. If you're trying to like change someone's behavior, you can set up a whole bunch of systems that either prohibit or entice them or force them to do something, or you can lead them in a way that helps them understand the reasoning behind. Like, if we say, if someone complains, they're either like leaving our restaurant wanting to recommend this to their friends, which is the highest compliment we can get, or they're not. And if they're not, have we done everything in our power to make them get to that place? And sometimes when we make the most mistakes and we upset people the most, those are the people that we can recover and really turn into lifelong guests. And does the team understand the difference between those two things? And for a long time, we focused just on managing the business, and that's not a recipe to take you to a bigger company.
Right. And on that point, I mean, I hear so many complaints talking about millennials. Oh, we don't like millennials. We don't like their work ethic. We really struggle finding employees. But it sounds like you've spent a lot of time just showing them where they're going, telling them the why, and you've had a lot of success, especially when you start bringing in things like core values and almost making them alive within your company. So, I mean, do you think that's helped to bring on new employees? Because especially, you know, when how many restaurants did you say you're at?
We're getting ready to open number 17. So, you know, this is a general feeling. I think that millennials aren't going anywhere. In fact, there's going to be more of them, and they're now Gen Z, and there's going to be a generation after that that's going to differ. And there's never been a bigger divide in, say, our generation, which I'm like kind of right on the Gen X millennial cusp. So I kind of see both sides of this. I just feel like that's a waste of energy. And in my world and what I'm trying to do, I am very thoughtful about how I spend energy, and spending energy being pissed off that the people that work for you and your company in general have a certain set of way they do things or whatever, just isn't a good spend of energy in my mind. I'll give you an example. Like, so if I told you, Robert, you have this 8 ounces of water, and this 8 ounces of water represents all the time and energy that you are gifted every day. And then I want you to visualize 200 shot glasses on the table. And some of these shot glasses, each one represents energy that you pour your own precious energy into. They're sucking your energy. It's time spent, thoughts, actions, planning, whatever. And half of these shot glasses on the left half of the table are, millennials suck. They're hard to manage. They have no work ethic. This isn't fair. I hate this. These other shot glasses on the other side of the table are like, who do I know that manages millennials really well? How do they get more out of them? They're not going anywhere. So how can I talk to somebody who knows how to do with this? What motivates them? And if you think about this targeted approach to how you spend mental energy, the body goes where the mind goes. So if you're wasting your time feeling sorry about how millennials work for you and all that, I mean, you're going to continue to feel in that space. You're going to continue to like wallow in that. I'm just not about it. I'm about staying in execution mode. And if this is what's happening, there's also positives to them. I'm going to spend my time and energy on those things. And I think that piece of the puzzle, whether it's talking about millennials or anything bad that happens, if you can curate and you really connect to how you spend your precious time and energy every day, whether it's like, oh, this was hard. Oh, this isn't fair. That person treated me poorly. I had this circumstance happen. That client unfairly posted a bad Yelp review about me, like whatever it may be. If you can stay disciplined to controlling that thought and action, that's really where the magic happens. And it's like this piece of the puzzle that's like, okay, I have this issue. It's reaction versus response. A reaction is like, oh, this sucks, millennials. A response is like, great, this is the crew of people that I'm typically hiring. How do I optimize them the most? And I'm going to spend my time figuring that out, not how do I get them to go away? And I think that discipline is what you can control. It's what you can be really good at. It's what you can continue to think about. I literally used to wear a rubber band on my wrist and I would snap it when I started to have these thoughts. And it was a lot of times when I was driving places, because you're driving, you have like extra time. But rather than thinking about what was happening to me and being reactive, I started snapping that every time I'd have those reactive thoughts into how can I be more responsive? What can I control? What can I do about these things? And I think that same discipline applies to this group of people who really do have a ton of great qualities, but it's making clear what you want. And then with millennials, we have a tendency to talk about what they're not doing, what they don't do, what they complain about versus what they do, and then getting crystal clear with what you want them to do. Like this is another thing I really believe in too, is that we have a tendency to talk a lot about what we don't want to have happen in life or how we don't want to experience this relationship versus what we do want to have happen. And if you get crystal clear with your employees about this is how we operate, this is the work day that we do, these are the things we do within that work day, this is the output of it, some of them are going to make it and some of them are not. And I guarantee if you track it, probably half of them are from certain generations and other ones aren't. But our work to do as leaders is to get crystal clear and make sure our team is crystal clear on the way we do things and what the results are. And if they don't want to get on board with that, no problem. You know, there's plenty of companies that you can go work in and slack on.
Yeah. So
off
true.
The soapbox now.
No problem. I'll get you back on it here in a second. So one of the things you touched on was there's so many companies that are so intent on being rigid about meeting their objectives and, you know, doing everything by the book. But I think obviously here we are, October 2020, there's been some challenging times over the last, 8-9 months, especially in your business. Tell me about the importance of just being nimble and seeing what opportunities are ahead of us. Because again, as you say, there's some people that are just so stuck in the negativity, listen to the media, and they're just stuck in that phase. Whereas I think there's probably a lot of opportunities out there ahead of us.
Yeah, I call it turtling. I mean, there's definitely, and I've seen some people who I really respected kind of turtle on this and just batten down the hatches, want to wait for the storm to pass. And I took a totally opposite approach with that. It's like, I'm not going to lay around licking my wounds. I'm a dog with a bone and I'm ready to go. And I think this is when you have ownership of the way you experience life, the things that happen to you and how you respond to them, it is like one of the most powerful feelings. And look, I mean, I'm not going to lie. I sat in this very room I'm in right now and effectively shut down the company that I built over the last 15 years and laid off 1,200 people overnight for something that had nothing to do with anything that we did. Was it painful? 100%. But I think taking that energy and that pain and putting that into something that is actually positive, like, okay, these guys just got laid off. They are living paycheck to paycheck. How do I support them? How do we shore up this business? How do we make decisions? How do we do something with nothing? Where do the opportunities lie? Again, it goes back to a control of the way in which you spend your mental energy. And it is so much more comfortable to think about the pain and the unfairness. This is unbelievable. Than it is to think about how can I twist this? How do I make something out of nothing? How do I pivot my business And, I will tell you, I think entrepreneurs were uniquely positioned to thrive in this environment because we are used to not having any money. We're used to having to pivot our business. We're used to things going wrong. And so a lot of these leaders who have kind of just been in a different scenario or came up through the system in a different scenario really struggled because it required quick decision-making, creative thinking, reaching out to the network. I mean, I think that all of those things were really critical in this moment. And again, it's also a big piece of its acceptance. Like I literally thought, okay, guys, we're going to make it through these 2 weeks. Like if we can just shut the company down for 2 weeks, we can get through that. I mean, it's a joke. And now here we are like 6 months later and most of the restaurants are at 50% capacity. And yet we're doing more sales than we've ever done.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And how is that? Because I'm willing to sell stuff. We never did to-go business before, but you bet your bottom dollar I'm going to do to-go better than anybody else is going to do.
That's awesome.
And I order to-go every day from Uber Eats, from our restaurants, from other people's. Who's doing it better? Challenge your team. And this was these moments when it is the most important time to lead. And it was also really important to lead with heart and emotion and perpetuate people who just took huge pay cuts. Everyone in our company, including myself, took a maximum of a 40% pay cut down to the lower paid people took a 10, 20% pay cut. Everybody led that charge and we cut hard and we cut fast and we joined arms and we were like, let's get this done because there's no scenario we're going to let this go. People have to eat. We're going to figure out how to feed them. And if you have that mental attitude about what you do, I guarantee you will win.
That's awesome. Love it. So you talked about entrepreneurs and, we go through that journey. None of us have been through that experience where we've led a company, 10, 20, $50 million company. But I think certainly very important to me is we rely on people around us. We surround ourselves by people that will enhance ourselves. We will take away some of our weaknesses. Tell me about some of the people that you've surrounded yourself with or groups of people over the years.
I mean, I think if you asked me what was the single biggest influence on my success, I'd say it was a toss-up between the Entrepreneurs Organization and my network. And the EO group is a big part of my network, so they're intertwined in some ways. But all of this has to do with peer-to-peer sharing and a deep sense of curiosity and humility. And I have valued that network, which was in the beginning driven by the fact that I did not know what I was doing. I was a waitress, partnered with a bartender who had an idea and a willingness to work pretty hard. And what I love about this is like when you graduate from college, it's like cheating becomes legal. So you can ask people for the answer and it's okay. And I really leaned into that primarily because we just needed to, we didn't know what we were doing. And what I found was this beautiful way that people want to help each other and support one another, even in competing businesses. And so when COVID happened, I called this gal, Alice Elliott, and she's a big restaurant recruiter. So she knows everyone in our space. And I was like, man, we're desperate. We got to like help each other. This is not the time for like, competitive vibes. And so she put this call together for us. And there were 9 of us, 9 restaurant CEOs on the first one, like that 3rd week of March. It's like the 18th or the 19th of March. It's right after St. Patrick's Day.
Oh, nice.
We closed the business on St. Patrick's Day and I'm Irish. I'm like, this is not okay. Like,
I was going to say, that's not good.
No. Anyway, so there were 9 of us on that call the first week. And then the next week there were 30. And I think we kind of ended having the calls a couple weeks ago, not ended forever, but spread them out more. And there was 140 CEOs of restaurants on that call. Wow. Had to be like moderated. We had to have like a different conference calling center, like whatever. That's a lot of people. Yeah. And all in the restaurant space, just wanting to share. And I think that people get in their heads about what does asking for help mean? And especially men, like no offense to my dudes out there. I'm a big lover of guys because I've been around them. They're some of my best friends, formates, all the things. But, there's a definitive mental block that I think leaders have where it's like, what do I make it mean to ask for help or to ask someone they know about this? And we're really good at talking ourselves out of that. And the funny thing is, I think when you ask for help, what happens for the other person that you're asking is they're typically like, wow, this person's really super smart to ask this. I wish I would have asked for more help, more mentorship, more whatever when I was further back in my career or building my business earlier on. I would have really, not snagged as many times. And I think we all have that example. I feel that, and I have asked for a tremendous amount of help. It's also kind of a proven fact that if you use the words, hey man, I could really use your help with something, that people have a very difficult time saying no to that. It's just human nature. And I've literally been doing this way for 15 years, and I've had maybe one or two people flat tell me no, they won't. And even then it was like probably a pretty good reason that they had something else going on or whatever. But I think this is probably one of the biggest secret weapons you can have. In addition to like asking for help, it's also just, putting yourself out there so people think of you to join a board, to make an investment, to introduce you to a banker, to give you a client. Like there's just a million different ways when you do this that really behoove you in your business, your personal self, give you high level of awareness. I mean, the more successful you get, let's be real, you have to pay people to tell you the truth. Like you have to pay your therapist to be like, you're an idiot, you're doing this wrong, here's the thing. You have to pay a business coach to be like, look, here's the thing. In my mind, I was like, okay, how do I get feedback for free? How do I learn from other people for free? And it's a real beautiful thing that people are willing to do that outside in the world.
No, that's awesome. Yep, I agree 100%. One more question for you, Lauren, and I'll respect your time. So you obviously partnered up with a private equity. You hear so many challenges about private equity going sour. You've obviously done a really good job so far. So for the people that are considering some type of an exit or partnership, what would be maybe your 3 takeaways to look for in a successful partnership?
I do have an amazing partner, and I know I'm very lucky. But because I reached out to the network a lot, I learned that there was a few things that were really imperative about going down this path. One, you need to hire a team that's done this before. I'm an artist and a restaurateur. I'm not a banker and I'm not a finance person. So finding really great advisors, both on the banking side, find a great banker that's going to help you vet and look at these people. And also a great legal team, because the devil's in the details and how all this stuff runs. And I'm still learning about it. I loved that process. It was like 4 college education whipped into 18 months. And I'd do it again in a heartbeat because I learned a ton. Having that team of people is critical. And also on your team of people is finding several people in your network that who've gone through this before, not only so that you can really understand what you're signing up for, but when it comes time to go down this path, that you and your management team can practice in front of that group of people, your management presentations, running through your SIM, all your documents, your finances. These are things to think about, that you kind of got those people to call as this happens, because it is extremely emotional. You're selling your company, you're like bringing these partners in and you don't know. You're effectively like marrying someone that you're going to meet 3 or 4 times, and they're going to get a very inside look into your business, but you are not going to be returned that same favor to see inside theirs. And then the last piece is, I would say, getting a list of every deal that they've done, current and former, and calling every single one of those founders and CEOs and finding out what it was like to be partners with them. Gone are the days of people hiding behind this, and I think the great private equity groups are able and willing to share those contacts. And I had multiple people that, even when the investment didn't go as planned, still had great things to say about our partner, and that was meaningful to me. And then the last thing I would add is that if you can really try to get aligned and understand how they perform when things don't go right, because as much as we all set out to do a certain thing, inevitably the road detours and we go down a different path. And we were lucky to have something that popped up in diligence that we had to handle. And so I was able to see how they showed up in a tricky time. And that was a real blessing. And I think making sure that you're aligned on what their investment thesis is for your company, if you're staying in it, and understanding what yours is and being realistic with it. Do I want to sign up for this? And really talking to these other entrepreneurs about how things changed for them after the fact. How did it feel? How was it to do a board meeting? There's a lot of pieces to the puzzle that I think the network is happy to share. And if you've been through a private equity deal, like I know you have too, Robert, you have this sense of like you're happy and willing to share with other people, because boy, would that have been nice to have during our process too. We'll lean into that a lot more.
Yeah, that's true. Good point.
Yeah.
So if people wanted to learn more about you, understand what you're involved with, what's the best way for them to find out?
Yeah, I'm on LinkedIn. I don't get on there a ton, and I get a lot of requests for solicitations or stuff, but you can through you or send me a message. I'm also on Instagram too at Lauren Bailey LB. I'm pretty active on that. And other than that, I'm kind of trying to stay focused. It's a tough thing because I love working with other entrepreneurs and networking. But one of my goals this year, and I had to do this in COVID, was really kind of honor my time and like what I commit to and how do you say no. Another powerful thing that my therapist gave me that I share with you all for free is really staying focused on when you say yes to something, understanding what you're saying no to. And I lost sight of that because I do love to help people and be out there in the world and being a part of the community. And I was on like 7 boards at one point. But I was disconnected from the fact that when I was saying yes to all those things and helping people or strangers or whatever, was I clear on what that meant? I was saying no to in my personal life and no to in my own company. And I think having that is also a really clear guidepost and something that's important for leaders as well.
Yeah, I completely agree and respect that. So I do really appreciate your time today, Lauren. As always, it's great to see you, and glad to hear that you're doing really well. So thank you again for your time, Lauren. I look forward to catching up again.
Yeah, you too.
Okay.
Yeah, I can't wait to give you a hug in person.
Yeah, I know. That'd be nice. Okay, take care. Thank you, Lauren.
Bye.
Okay, bye. Hopefully that was pure dead brilliant for you today, and you got some great takeaways for your business or your personal life. This is Robert Clinkybeard along with David Anderson, and we'd love to get you and your friends to join us in our future journey. So please subscribe through our website, commerciallandscapers.com, or through the various podcast channels out there. But anyway, hopefully you have an awesome day. Cheers.